I wanted to make a video about the goddess Danu from the Celtic pantheon and how I made a connection with her and how I found her and how she became, or is, I should say, is becoming my matron deity. A couple of years ago, I started really getting into paganism and witchcraft, and I don't necessarily give myself those titles. I do kind of off and on, but I go back and forth, and I'm still sort of, trying to figure that kind of thing out. So a couple years ago, I started getting into this kind of thing anyway, this kind of practice, and about maybe 10 months ago, I decided that I wanted to start exploring the idea of working with deity. And when I first started thinking pretty seriously about it, I knew that I wanted to work with the Celtic pantheon, at least that's the first one that I wanted to explore. So I was looking into Celtic spirituality and things like that, and I came across the goddess Danu. She was the very first goddess that I that sort of came up in the list when I Googled it. I just did a quick Google search of like Celtic gods and goddesses or Celtic deity or something like that, and the very first one was Danu. And it struck me because 2 weeks before that, I was sitting on the porch with my husband, and we were discussing our ideas on what we thought God was. So, some theological and philosophical conversation was happening, and I was like, my idea of God, like what I think that God really is not some conscious sentient being, but it's like sort of like the energy that flows through matter and the forces that bind matter together, and maybe even matter itself. I'm just not sure. So I kind of waffle between pantheism and panentheism. But we were sitting there talking about this and our ideas of deity, and I said to him, I said, I just need to come up with a new name. I need a new word for God, because it just didn't feel comfortable with, for me. I wasn't comfortable saying it because every time I said it, I felt like I had to explain, like, okay, I'm using the word God, but I don't mean God in like Christian sense, or I don't mean God in like a, whatever, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to explain it away. So I kind of half jokingly said to him, I said, I just need a new name for God. I need to call it something else. I was like, maybe I'll call it Danu or something. And then 2 weeks later, Danu was the very first goddess that came up, and on the list of Celtic pantheons. And I had when I clicked on her to go and kind of research her, it just felt like it clicked. It was like she was a nature goddess. She was like a mother goddess, very maternal. She's known, or her association is with rivers, and all of these things. Like, I just kept reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably who I want to start with, at least, if not keep working with, but we'll see. But then I went over and looked at a little list of associations, and the crystal that she's associated with is a moonstone, and that was basically the thing that sealed the deal for me. And the reason being is because about a week before this, I found a pendant that I bought when I was a teenager, and it had been missing for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and I had been looking everywhere for it. I had no idea where it was. So all of a sudden it just kind of popped up. This was about a week after I, renamed God Danu, just purely by chance or fate. I don't know, whichever, destiny, maybe, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But so this was just a few days or maybe even a week after the whole, renaming of God conversation on my deck. and I found this moonstone pendant. And then a week after that, I started researching Celtic pantheon and came across Danu, and this is now the time that I'm reading about this goddess who, is named Danu, and her stone association is moonstone, and she's a nature goddess and like motherhood and primal, and she seems like she's very old, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, was that my sign? Were those my signs? It just, I don't know. It just struck me, and I thought it was kind of a cool story, and I haven't really shared it with anybody, so I thought I'd share it on here. But when I started researching her a little more and kind of watching videos on her and reading as much as I could, and there's really not much information at all. It's very difficult to find any more information than basically what I just told you. But she is thought by some people to be even like proto-Indo-European, because there's a goddess Danu in the Celtic pantheon. There's also, and I don't have this in front of me, so I'm not sure I'm going to get this 100% right, but I believe Danu is also known in the Greek or Roman pantheon, but also in India, and I think it's the Hindu pantheon has Danu, who's associated with rivers. And so all of these things kind of lead together, or lead, down the path that kind of says, this might be, Danu itself might be the idea of a very, very not proto, but like primal, a primal force, or the primal idea of God, or, back when, before any of these pantheons even existed, maybe, and I guess it could be a product of trade or things like that. I'm not sure exactly on timelines, but it sure, I just thought, oh my gosh, this goddess seems just so primal and so just like everything that I was looking for in a goddess. And to be honest, since then, this was about 10 months ago since I started researching it, since then, I have not done a whole lot of work because I am having a little trouble getting started. I'm having difficulties figuring out what it is that I want this relationship to look like. And I do want to be clear that my idea on deity is, or my thoughts on deity have very much to do with like, they're a product of, well, they're a product of history and culture and mythology, but they are an aspect of myself. So that, basically I look at deity as just some sort of outwardly projection of myself. And it's not like, I don't believe that there is a goddess Danu listening to me or going to answer my prayers or, or make my spells, come true or whatever you want to call it, but, or manifest, so I do want to be clear on that, but I do still refer to it as a relationship because these are aspects of myself that I don't necessarily know yet. And these are aspects of myself that I want to get to know. So I'm really excited, even though it's been like 10 months since I've been sort of, tiptoeing around the subject. I'm really excited. And I, was kind of wondering if you guys had any ideas on how to get started. And, I've done a few rituals to her. I've done a few, offerings to her. But I'm kind of interested in your stories and like how you began a real like intense, hardcore, ritual process or just a relationship, even if you don't do rituals for deity, you know, what is your process on getting started with those relationships? And do you have any advice? And I hope this video makes sense. I'm pretty sure there were a couple of things that I said that might have been a little backwards, but this is my very first video on YouTube, on this channel at least, and I am a little nervous, so don't judge me too hard, okay guys? Anyway, let me know if you have any comments, let me know if you have any advice, or let me know your stories and tell me, anything interesting that, or any advice that you have on getting started with, going really deep with a relationship with deity. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. Bye.